All right, I think we're all set up and ready to go. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Well, good afternoon, good evening. It's YouTube, right? So this could be literally broadcasting at any time of the day. I'm about to interview someone that I'm really looking forward to talking to. His name's Kyle Butler. I don't know a whole lot about his history. I do know that he also is deconstructed from Christian faith, belief in a God, and so I'm really excited about talking to him. We haven't really scheduled a long. Sorry about my fiance's grandfather clock back there. It's become a recurring funny part of these interviews. However, whenever we think about it in advance, we do try to uh, stop those recordings or stop those. Sorry, my cat is freaking out on my. Hey, Dan, stop. Dan, stop. No, don't do that. You're going to mess up my recording. All right. Hopefully that won't mess up the lighting for the recording. Okay, so Kyle is here now, and I'm going to bring him up. And so here we go. And it looks like you're muted, Mr. Butler. You can unmute yourself. I don't know if I can unmute. There we go. All right.
Okay. There we go.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Great. Good to see you, bro.
Likewise. Likewise. Good to see
Hey.
you as well.
So I did a little bit of an intro, and also this isn't live. We're not broadcasting anywhere, so we can edit this out. Anything that you're not happy with, whatever, we can update it. We can fix it. Also, I am not on a time crunch, except I just have to get out of here whenever you feel free. So, what's your timeline look like so I don't take up too much of your time?
Yeah, I've got about an hour or so. So I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Fantastic. Fantastic. All right. So, what I first wanted to do was go ahead and introduce you to my audience and then do the vice versa. Where can people find you and your story?
Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on TikTok as well. I have a little bit of presence on YouTube, but mostly TikTok, where I kind of, tell a little bit of the story. Facebook, obviously, you can find a lot more information there as well. So those are the two
Okay.
primary places.
And it's Kyle Butler. And then also on the screen, I'm going to have your handles for whatever media you want me to provide to the audience. And
Good.
mine will be there as well. We want to always try to encourage everyone to subscribe because it helps our view count. And then comment if anything we say sounds interesting. First and foremost, man, I don't know about your history of deconversion story, and that's
Hmm.
mainly what I like to talk about is like deconstruction and where
Sure.
your pinnacle of your faith was and where you went to total deconstruction. So I kind of want to lay that framework, but also you and I are connected to a similar acquaintance that is interesting, who cancer survivor Ryan Loth, or
Yes.
Lel. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Are you a good friend of his?
Yes, yes. Not
Okay,
personally.
okay,
I know him personally. I know him through
okay,
Facebook, and
okay.
we chat
Because
a
I
lot.
did I did a podcast at his house when I was first starting out, like
Oh,
years ago when
okay.
I was a personal trainer, and we
Awesome.
did we did a podcast at his house about the treatment that he and his wife decided to pursue in his cancer diagnosis, and
Awesome.
about he kind of the way that he went about more holistically. He
Yeah.
didn't totally abstain from contemporary medicine, but he did do a lot of stuff that Steve Jobs tried to do, but also incorporated that immunology type of cancer treatment, which was really, really cool, groundbreaking at the time. And I was also one of my clients. Her name was Dr. Maduri, and she was the head of Cancer Treatment Centers of America in Tulsa, Oklahoma at the
Hmm.
time. And she told me how like revolutionary that specific type of treatment has been toward cancer, even more so than chemo or radiation treatment. that
Yeah.
immunology treatment has been so impressive. So anyway, it was really interesting to have that conversation, and I just didn't. I was shocked when I went on there today and I saw that we had that connection. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's long spreading. So tell me a lot about you and yourself.
Okay. Well, I grew up in a Christian home ever since my mom, she had her conversion, so to speak. I was about 5 years old, and she went in with everything she had. I mean, she just went all the way in, became a complete Jesus fanatic, God fanatic, and things like that. And by association, her
My
five
cat.
children kind of did the same thing. We kind of were, dragged into her passion, so to speak. I'm the oldest. Um, I wouldn't call myself a mama's boy necessarily, but I always tried to do everything I could do to help my mother. I saw how difficult things were for us growing up, and I just always try to do whatever I can do to try to help her make it easier. And maybe somewhere in that process, um, I was also maybe seeking for her approval, and maybe subconsciously and unconsciously, the only uh, pathway I really saw to her approval was through faith. So I may have gravitated towards faith a little bit more than I probably would have if this subconscious, unconscious thing wasn't working behind the scenes and
Sure.
undercover. But if, at some point, when I got into my teenage years, the men of God and the women of God started, kind of pointing me to where they were saying God wanted me to be. And so probably about 14 or 15 or so, it appeared to me, based upon all these words that I was hearing in church directed at me, that this God had an idea for me to be a pastor, or wanted me to be a pastor. Something I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be a pastor. I never had any ambitions towards being a pastor or anything like that. I had a
And I
whole
don't know how
different.
old you are. So about what year is this?
This is it probably became really cemented in my understanding when I was about 16.
Okay, and so
Um,
what can you give me a time frame of like where would the church be? Where were you in geographically in the United States? What type of
mhm.
denominations were you being exposed to? Like what
Right.
year would this be? Like was the
This,
televangelist movement going strong yet?
yeah. This is
Okay.
in the 80s. So
Okay.
again, growing up in church, I'm a 70s baby. So
Okay.
in the mid to late 70s is when my mother kind of got really into it. But by the 80s, we were full blown church every day kind of thing.
Sure.
Um, Pentecostal holiness is where we started, and
Oh wow.
in the Pentecostal holiness faith, everything is a sin. Everything is a
Oh,
sin. So,
oh yeah, for sure.
there's no life there at all. The only thing that I remember growing up thinking, the only thing this God is happy about is us being at church, because that's the only thing we do.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
but then we had this massive shift in our church culture. My mother was working for IBM at the time, which is kind of like working for Google or Apple or something in today's standards. But she got transferred to Maryland. We were living in New Jersey, primarily, in a pretty urban kind of environment where it was just struggle and hard times and things like that. So
Mhm.
we moved to Virginia, and it was a culture shock for us because the landscape was totally different. And we didn't have a church home initially, and through my father meeting a pastor, we ended up started going to his church, which was incredible culture shock because this was a white church.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I was about 13 or 14 at the time, and I noticed the differences. They weren't subtle; they were major differences, and not just culture, you know, skin color wise, but how they worshipped, how they did their thing. It was much more contemporary, much more laid back. It wasn't the emotionalism of the Pentecostal faith that I had known, the running, the shouting, the dancing,
Speaking in
the
tongues
erratic
and
speaking in tongues and all those kind
yeah,
of things,
yeah,
and the
yeah.
laying on of hands, people falling out, those kind of things. There was a
Right.
little bit of that, but nothing what I was used to. But it was again, it was more. word based and spirit based and that kind of thing. Like, this person would jump up and I have a word from the Lord, and then this person would I have a word of the Lord. So it's very much in
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
realm, kind of a
Yeah,
thing.
I grew up I had a similar experience too. We were Independent Assemblies of God, Pentecostal, but
Okay,
in
yeah.
Texas, and I was
Hmm.
in a mixed racial church, so it was black folk, white folk, little
Uh-huh.
Hispanic sprinkled out, but most people were a little more racist toward them back then. So
Yeah,
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 but I
yeah.
remember seeing a lot of that stuff too. So okay, I'm
Hmm.
familiar with kind of where you were in your
Right,
denominational experience.
right, right.
Okay.
I also grew up with a lot of fear of God. So
A lot of
in
what
my
now?
a lot of fear of God, a lot of fear
Oh,
of God.
fear. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So
Yeah,
in
yeah,
those
yeah.
early years in that heavy Pentecostal holiness, it
Sure.
was really a lot of fear-based control. God's not
Mm,
pleased. God's not happy. Don't play with
mm,
God.
yeah.
The the message was pretty clear. God will give you a little bit of time to fool around, but eventually he's
Mm,
going to run out of patience. And if you don't have your shit together by the time he runs out of patience, he'll jump on you and make you get in line. And I was always horribly afraid of that. Like I said, we grew up in a very urban kind of, we struggled a lot financially. And I was pretty smart. I figured, you know what, life has already been hard enough. No need to make it harder. No
sure.
need to piss
Yeah,
God off and make it any harder.
sure.
So at 19, after, kind of what you may remember the term straddling the fence, kind of, on fire
Oh,
for
yeah,
God
yeah,
as
yeah.
a
Yeah,
teenager,
yeah.
then kind of being a teenager, then back on fire for God as a
If
teenager,
you're
then being a
if you're
teenager,
lukewarm,
that
I'll
kind of
spit
thing.
you out of my mouth. And yeah,
Right,
all
right,
that
that whole
stuff
kind
was
of thing.
very prevalent. Yeah.
Exactly. So at 19, growing up with this fear of this thing in the back of my mind, hey, you know what? One day God's going to run out of patience on you, and then he's going to make it really, really hard. You think you've had it hard so far, he's going to make it really hard.
Yeah.
The Jonah kind of
Yeah,
story.
yeah.
And I didn't want that. I didn't want that.
I almost mentioned Jonah like 30 seconds ago. I
Yeah,
knew that's where you were going with that.
yeah,
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 yeah.
that kind of
Yeah,
thing I kind of
if
grew
you
up
don't
with.
toe the line, God's gonna make you toe the line at some point.
Yeah, listen, do what I tell you to do or else. Like, I'll make you. Like,
Yeah,
you got no
yeah.
choice here. That's why I laugh at free will. People
I do
love
too.
to talk about free will. Oh, God's given everyone free will. No, okay.
Yeah.
Where was Pharaoh's free will when he wanted to keep the slaves? Where was his free
Exactly.
will? Like,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
was
And then when
Jonah's
God
free will
hardened his
when?
heart
Yeah,
and
like, yeah,
wouldn't let
exactly,
him leave.
exactly.
Yeah,
Where was Jonah's free will when they're like, I don't want to go preach to those people. Leave me alone.
exactly.
So, anyway, so
Free
at
will my
19,
ass.
exactly. At 19, I made this decision. I was in church one night. We were in a revival, and that we did a lot of revivals back then too. But by this time, I was back in New Jersey. So after
Okay.
graduation and some life changes that happened, we ended up back in New Jersey, back in that church I grew up with, back in that Pentecostal holiness, run around the building church.
Yeah.
Um, and we were the church was doing a revival at this time. So,
And
I
the
was in church.
holiness, the whole Trinity, they did believe in the Trinity, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely,
Oh, okay. Okay.
absolutely.
So
Very,
that's
very,
the free,
very
I think
heavy
the
on the.
free holiness, Pentecostal free holiness, I don't think do. I don't
Mm,
know. I don't remember, but
yeah,
there's one of those
yeah,
Pentecostal holiness groups that is very against the Trinity. So
yeah.
it's
With all
just
these
funny.
denominations, I mean,
Dude, it's hard to keep track.
exactly, exactly. But yeah, we grew up with a very, very heavy dependency on Jesus and the Holy Spirit. God
Okay.
obviously was part of the equation, but it was very heavy, Jesus dependent, Holy Spirit dependent.
Sure. Yeah.
So at 19, I said, I stood up in church one night and said, okay, I'm going to just lift my hands and worship God. And people laugh at me. They laugh at me because, you're still a teenager. You're still kind of thinking people are going to pick on you if you do this. All your
Sure.
teenage peers are right there with you. So,
Right.
I decided
Even
to get
though you're
serious with God.
getting all of the positive affirmations from the grown-ups, the older
Right,
people,
right,
but
right.
you're still your peers are who you care about. Let's be honest.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly. So that was my mindset that night. I'm going to stand up tonight and worship, lift my hands and just worship God. I don't care who laughs at me or whatever. And that was my moment. That was my moment where I said, okay, God, I'm all the way in. I submit myself to you. I look back on that decision and think, what a incredibly horrible decision to make at 19. where most 19-year-olds are trying to figure out what they want to do with their life, or they're
Yeah,
maybe in college or about to go to college, or that whole time frame. They're so pure and sense of adventure and life and opportunity, and that
sure.
whole thing of let me go find myself. I'm making this really, really drastic decision to forego me as a human being and become something I never wanted to be and do something I never
Sure.
wanted to do.
Yeah.
Very horrible decision that I look back on and think,
Mm.
that was one I'd rather take back.
What do you
So that's
think
kind of,
about what do you think about some of these churches that have 5-year-olds,
oh, it's
going down to
horrible.
the front and confessing their sins and
It's horrible. Absolutely horrible. The
asking Jesus to save
indoctrination,
them?
the
Yeah.
brainwashing,
It is. It's rough, huh?
it is,
Think
it's
looking at it
terrible.
now,
Hmm.
we thought it was so beautiful, but looking at it now,
Exactly.
man, it's heart-wrenching to see
Exactly.
like the brainwashing of a child that's that innocent, pure, has
Hmm.
really just a clean slate,
Yeah.
and now they're not. Like the free will gets taken away by all it, like everything around us. Like it gets taken away the minute we're born. There's
Yeah.
no idea or concept of free will left after that. So
Exactly.
like, but I'm a Robert Sapolsky fan. I've read Determined. I'm a big fan. My cat is going nuts on my curtains. I'm sorry, it's throwing off my
it's
lighting.
it's okay.
I
It's
don't have
okay.
a strobe light over here in the corner, I promise.
Okay.
um but yeah, so whenever you when you made that decision at 19, did you know for a fact that you were going to pursue ministry, that you wanted to be in some sort of ministry, or were you just saying, now I'm surrendering myself to whatever a God is? Like, what in your mind, what do you think was happening? And of course, it's hard to ask you what 19-year-old you was thinking.
Well, I actually knew. I mean, I
Oh,
knew
okay. Okay.
that eventually this would lead to ministry of some kind. Um, because again, I'd been kind of prepped
Okay.
and kind of
Yeah.
pre-programmed that this was
Right.
God's will for my life. That
Yeah.
I honestly, I felt, James, like I didn't have a choice, you know.
Mm.
And although I did have a choice, the choice was do it or else. And that wasn't
Okay.
much of a choice to me, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And to my tragic story, and it is tragic in a way, to my tragic story, I didn't have anyone around me that I could have gone to and said,
Mm.
hey, you know what? I really don't want to do this. I want to go pursue my life my way. I didn't have anyone around me that would have said, hey, Kyle, you know what? This is your life. Do it your way. If I would have told my
Mm.
mother that,
Yeah.
she would have said, that's the enemy talking to you. Don't let the enemy deceive you. God has a plan on your life, blah, 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 blah. We had just,
I wonder if that's a recurring thing, because I don't think I would have had many people in my life either that would have been
no,
like, ooh, I don't know if you
yeah,
should be thinking like that. Like
right.
I I think I probably was surrounded by the same type of folk.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of us were, right? Our circles were very small.
Oh yeah.
Um, we had our church life and we had our work life if we had little jobs, and we had school life.
Yeah.
That's primarily what we had. And I had just come back to New Jersey. So I didn't go to high school in New Jersey. I went to high school in Virginia. All my friends that I had developed friendships with through my, early teenage years were all in Virginia. So I didn't know many
Right.
people except for the people in my church. That's the only people I knew.
Right. And
The people I'd
that's the
grown up with in
networks
that same
you.
church.
Yeah.
Right. And since I was the oldest of my mother's children, I couldn't have gone to my siblings. I didn't have an older sibling, or I didn't have uncles and aunts and things like that I can go
Right.
talk to that way. My father was pretty useless in any regards to being a father, so I couldn't go to him. I
Mm.
couldn't have gone to the pastor of the church because he would have echoed everything my mother would have said, and I was probably too afraid to go to him anyway. Anyway,
Sure.
so
Yeah.
I didn't have anyone in my life I could have gone to when I was wrestling with this decision. I just
Okay.
felt like I needed to submit and be obedient or else.
Mm.
And then things
Yeah.
things moved pretty quickly after that. After that 19 moment, by 21, I was being ordained for the first time in the ministry because I had dove in with everything I had.
Mhm.
Not for that purpose, but again, my commitment to God at that time was, God, okay, I give you everything. That was a decision.
Which denomination were you ordained into?
Still in the Pentecostal holiness at the time.
Okay, Pentecostal
Or
holiness.
we're back there, yes.
Because
So then by
I was independent assemblies, and
mm,
it was not that complicated. I think you only had to have one reference, and then you had to answer, a
yeah,
list of
yeah,
like I've done this, I've done this, I believe this, I affirm this, I attest
Yeah.
this, type of
Yeah.
thing. And as long as you have one or two
Hmm.
people that can vouch for you, then
Yeah. We sat in
that
front
would
of a
be it.
little church tribunal, so to
Yep,
speak,
yep.
and
Little
they asked
committee,
us,
and they
yeah, they
ask
asked
you
us
a few
little
questions, and
questions, and
yeah.
obviously we had been part of this church, so they had already seen certain
Okay.
things and
Yeah,
that
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. And then we got our, we were ordained by the pastor, and that's kind of how we got ordained. 2 years after that, the pastor then makes me the assistant pastor of the church.
Mm-hmm.
So, here I'm 23 years old, I'm assistant pastor. And then by 26, a few years later, the pastor's saying, okay, I'm going to retire down to South Carolina and you're going to take over the church. So here I am at 26 years old. I knew shit, scared as can be,
Yeah.
clueless as ever. And I'm being handed
I
this church.
think
But all the
that's
while,
when I first started pastoring was 20, 24, 25, something
yeah,
like that. No,
all
it
around
wasn't.
the,
It was 20, it was 21 as well. But I
oh,
went to Bible school
oh,
before.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm thinking all this time, this is God's will. I struggled with it though internally. I wrestled with it. I never fully accepted it as far as the role until it was 2008 when I finally like inside said, okay, this is who I am. This is
Mm,
I fully embrace this pastorship thing. It
yeah.
wasn't in 2000 until 2008. So it was always a struggle for me
Mm,
because deep down inside, it's not something I wanted to do, you know.
mm,
But again, I
mm.
felt like I had no choice, and I was kind of led to do it. So anyway, so that brought me up to
Did
2008.
just out of
Mm-hmm.
curiosity, did you have anything else that you did want to do? Or
Well,
was it
that's
just that you knew you didn't want to do this?
well at 8 years old, and I go
Yeah.
back, and um, every major moment in my life seems to point back to the 8 year old Kyle.
Mm,
So every healing breakthrough I have takes me back to the 8 year old boy. Every memory that I have of when something significant happened seems to take me back to the 8 year old boy. That
okay.
8 year old Kyle, my 8 year old self, I remember I used to sit, kind of how kids sit on the ground like this, and they're laid down and they just kind of got
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
like this, whether watching TV or doing whatever. Well, I
Yeah.
used to do that and daydream. And
Mm,
in
yeah.
these daydreams, these visions, I call them now, I used to see myself as a millionaire. Now,
Oh, okay.
we grew up, again, very
Like a
impoverished
businessman.
and struggle. Yeah, business and entrepreneur and a millionaire. And I
Sure.
remember, I used it's so interesting because I used to see it, right? I used to see myself as this millionaire. And you know what I never saw? I never
Mm,
saw no. I never saw impossibility. I never saw
mm,
any limitation to it. I just saw myself there, and I would feel it and envision it, and I just knew that I was going to be a millionaire, you
yeah.
know, and I'd have this recurring thing. And one of these moments, I remember, I was having one of those moments, and what I say, kind of out of nowhere, I was like, I don't want to be a pastor. I was
Yeah.
8 years old. I didn't know anything about being a pastor or anything. So instinctively, which it all leads back to instincts and our inner knowing. Instinctively, I knew that I was going to be a millionaire. And instinctively, I knew I didn't want to be a pastor.
Mm,
So when I talk about the betrayal, when I talk about self betrayal, self denial, and one reason why I'm so big on self love now and self worth and self appreciation and following self is because I knew what I wanted to be and what I didn't want to be. I knew what I wanted to do and what I was capable of. And I betrayed myself for the voice of others. You know,
mm,
that's what ultimately led me into pastorship. It wasn't my voice, it wasn't my heart, it wasn't my passion. It was the collective voice of others that I'd heard all my life, maybe seeing a talent of a leader in me, maybe seeing the gifting of a charismatic person that I am. I don't know, but I think they saw something in me because we were in church. They just kind of projected what they saw in me instead of any of those people, mother included, ever really finding out what I wanted to do and be, you know, and
So
pushing that.
I don't want to put this on you, but I am on the spectrum neurodivergent. And a lot of times I've been told that that's called masking. Like in order to fit in order to get
Right.
approval, in
Hmm.
order to not feel like that you're the social pariah,
Right.
you take on whatever is
Hmm.
been put upon you and told
Hmm.
is the right way to be, and
Right.
you try to act it out to its fullness. Like you try
Yeah.
to take it to its absolutes. Like, well, if
Hmm.
this is the best little boy I can be, then I'm
Right.
going to be the best little boy I can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it was for me too. Because I dove in with everything I had, even though it wasn't fully in my heart. I still
Sure.
did it with the love and the compassion and the commitment to people
Mm.
and to the integrity of the office of pastorship and things like that. I still did it with that level of commitment because that's who I am. When I dive into something, I'm giving it everything
Sure.
I have and rolling up my sleeves and say, okay, let's go, let's make this successful, let's do it.
Yeah.
Um, but by 2008, James, I was in that place of like, God, we've done nothing. Like nothing you've
Mm.
said so far has ever worked, come to pass. I mean, we're still struggling down here. I mean, I was so um, lost for like why, like what's wrong. So obviously, I gaslit myself. Right? It's my
Mm.
fault. I'm not praying enough. I'm not
Of
fasting
course.
enough. I'm not trusting
Oh,
God enough. I'm not doing enough.
hey,
God's not happy with me yet. So
that's
it's
how we
me.
come. That's how we come into this religion. That's how we're
Yeah.
birthed into it. Is
Right.
you were born into
Exactly.
sin. It's
Hmm.
always your fault. God's
Yes.
perfect.
Yes.
You're the
Perfect.
problem. And
Exactly.
so it's got to be you. So you got to
Hmm.
figure out. You got to twist your brain into pretzels to figure out how
Exactly.
I fucked it up.
Exactly. Exactly. And for me, although I was a pastor and really trying to do the best I could, I just never felt like I was doing
Yeah.
enough. Right. It was I was never praying enough. I was never reading enough. I was never studying enough. I was never committed enough. And
Right.
and I went through so many phases of self-condemn, what I thought was condemnation, and God being so unpleased with me and so unhappy with me. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to do full-time ministry. It was so hard, and I would go to work and feel like God was so upset at me and so disappointed with me because I didn't have faith enough to trust him through the
Mm.
hardship of being a full-time
Yeah.
pastor in a small church. I mean,
Yeah.
all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, you
Sure.
know.
Yeah.
So by
I
2008,
went through the same bullshit, man. When
yeah,
I was an associate pastor in Borger, Texas, back in I
hmm,
think it was '05, man. You are preaching to the choir right
yeah,
now, sir. Like I hear
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Dressing in the
So
three-piece suit, going to
yeah,
work on Sundays,
hmm,
and
yeah,
yeah, and as the associate pastor, I don't know if this was your role, but I ran the church's halfway home. I visited all the sick in the hospitals and the
hmm,
elderly in the senior citizens homes and the hospice cares. The
hmm,
senior pastor didn't. That was not his role. That was my role. And
yeah,
so when I had to leave that position and was asked to step down, it ripped my heart out because I had been the person visiting all these people and built all
mm,
these relationships. And
yeah,
it was rough, man. But anyway,
yeah.
continue. Carry on.
Yeah,
2008.
I was actually the senior pastor. I'd
Oh
been
wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
installed
Okay.
as a senior pastor, so I had a few pastors under me, associate pastors like that. But I was a
Sure.
senior pastor, so I was carrying the weight of the whole ministry, so to speak, and
Yeah, yeah,
and
absolutely.
struggling with why aren't we growing? Why aren't we succeeding? What's happening here? Why is it so hard still? And then in 2008, again, after spending a season of gaslighting myself, I came to the conclusion that I had never really trusted God. I never really fully trusted God. I never really turned everything over to Jesus. I was watching Kenneth Copeland one day, and he had this big banner on the back of his stage, Jesus is Lord, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm watching this, and I'm like, that's it. That's the problem. I've never fully submitted to Jesus and fully made him Lord of this ministry and really, really made
Okay.
him Lord of my life, that whole thing.
Okay.
And I dove into the word of faith and to the
Yeah.
grace message with every
Oh
bit of
yeah.
I
Yeah,
had. I
yeah.
mean, I became a Copelandite, a Creftonite, whatever you want to call it. I became
Yeah.
a full blown word of faith grace
So
preacher.
you'd be familiar with Rhema Bible Training Center in
Yeah,
Broken
yeah,
Arrow,
yeah,
Oklahoma.
yeah,
So
yeah. The Hagans,
that's
yeah.
where I graduated from.
Okay, okay,
I
yeah.
was under Kenneth Hagin's studies and
Mm-hmm.
ministry. So I went
Yeah.
through his curriculum for the Word of Faith.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, good. So
Okay.
familiar still.
Yeah.
So I dove into that and became what I would call myself a really efficient grace preacher, fully,
Yeah.
fully thrown into grace and the finished work of the cross and the unconditional love of God and seed time and harvest. I mean, all the promises of God, and you can trust the word and the Charles Caps, take one of these seed faith
Yep.
capsules every day
Yep.
kind of a thing. And I became a
Yep.
man of faith, of confessions every day. I had a whole list of faith-based confessions,
Yeah.
and
Yep.
I
Yep.
recorded words from the Lord people had given me over the
Hmm.
years and stored them on my
Yep.
phone. And every morning I do my
Listen
daily
to him.
confessions. And I listen to these words of
Yep.
faith every day and made these incredibly asinine decisions
there's
about
there's
faith.
something so familiar yet uncomfortable about
Oh yeah.
everything you're saying.
Yeah. I made
I'm
these
sitting here like
incredibly
cringing,
insidious,
like going,
yeah,
"Oh, I did all of that."
crazy, idiotic decisions because I wasn't working at this point. And
Yeah.
I said, okay, God, I'm going to fully trust you now that I've never done it before. You're the source of everything. So every bit of income that comes in, you're the source. Is
Yep.
coming through faith.
Yep.
And I went through incredible loss on every aspect of life that you could imagine, from house to car to credit to position. I mean, I lost everything. I was
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
sleeping on a couch at some point,
Yeah.
still
And
holding on
you're
to
like,
God.
but it's
So
coming back, Lord. It's
it's
coming
coming
back.
back. It's coming back, that kind of thing.
I'm going through my Job
Um,
phase.
yeah. So
Testing my
that
faith.
started in 2008. And by 2016, after really hitting rock bottom of life, I mean, I really was at rock bottom life. I had some close friends of me. They were like, Kyle, what are you doing? Like, this isn't you. Like, what are you doing? And
Mm.
I would tell them, you don't understand. You don't understand. You
Yeah,
don't know
I've
what
had
I
a
know.
revelation.
I know this. You'll see God is faithful. He's going to keep his word. You'll see this is going to work. And then you're going to be down there and I'm going to be up here. Blah, 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 blah. I've went back and apologized to all those people, by the way. Said, hey, remember that time you used to tell me, you were right. You were right.
you were right. I should have listened.
I
Yeah, that was a
remember one
poor
time,
financial decision.
yeah, I was doing a teaching on tithing, and um I had this whole, I mean, outline made up and everything. And so I'm doing this, I think, a 6-week teaching on tithing. And one of the members comes up to me. She was a really good friend, by the way. She came up to me and she said, um, most of my church members didn't call me Pastor Kyle, which I appreciated because again, I this
Yeah,
whole
yeah, yeah. That was
pastor,
always weird for me too. It was
right.
always James for me.
James or sometimes
Preacher.
PK or bro or
Yeah.
whatever. And I was happy with that.
Preach.
I
I
was
got
very happy
preach a
with that.
lot.
Yeah, I was very happy with that.
Yeah.
So she comes up to me one day and says, yeah, I hear what you're saying with all this tithing stuff, but rich people don't tithe and they're doing pretty good. So what?
so
you know,
what the fuck's going on?
and I was so mad. Inside, I was like, I was so mad inside. And I said, you'll see. You'll see. This is going to work for me. What I wanted to say was, this is going to work for me, and you're still going to be down here poor, so you'll see, kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I said, listen, you'll see.
How wild is it that that's what we would desire too?
Yeah, yeah. And I said, you'll see. God is going to prove to the church that this is his way. And I decided to be a vessel of example for this. So you'll see. I kind of said in a nice way. I've since gone back to her and said, you know what? Remember that time?
I was
You were
so
right. She was like, I tried to tell you. I was trying to tell you back then. I mean, I was trying to tell you. Kind of thing.
It reminds me of that roast of Tom Brady recently, whenever
yeah.
Nikki Glacier was banging on Gronkowski. And she's like, even Gronkowski was like, me know that not real money. Man, golly, that made me laugh. So, man, I lost it.
Yeah,
I
she did a
lost
good
it.
job.
And he
on
looked
that.
over like, I did. I did know that wasn't real money. We do. I look back on myself and like I had a man walk up to me and give me, like, I was broke going to Rhema, and I was
Yeah.
constantly tithing and giving.
Yeah.
And same as you, man, and like not able to pay my tuition for the next month at Bible
Hmm.
school because I
Yeah.
had given my tithe money.
Right. Exactly.
and, and I was at prayer and healing school one day, and we were praying, and a dude walked up and handed me $20.
Yeah.
And I needed that money. Like I needed
Yeah.
gas money,
Yeah.
but I was driving back to my apartment and was passing the gas store and saw a homeless dude walking down the side of the road. And I was like, that's where my gift is. Like that's where my blessing is. All I got to do
Mhm.
is walk over and give that man a bottle of liquor,
Yeah.
and my
I know.
blessing is coming.
I
And I
know.
don't know how I had that logic and reasoning in my head.
I know. I know.
But
I was,
I did. I pulled over. I handed
yeah.
that $20 that some man had just gotten a word from the Lord to give to me. And that
Yeah.
was from, then the Lord told me to give it to him.
Yeah. 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 I was in a church once and I was on unemployment. So I was working a little bit during the right before the financial crash in 2008. So when it crashed, I was
Mm,
working and then I got laid off. So I was on unemployment.
I got
And
hit
at the
hard in that year.
Yeah. So at the time, the unemployment check was $1,008 every two
Mm,
weeks,
mm-hmm.
and
Woo,
$504 a week it was. I was at a
woo.
church service one night, and this one of my friends who's a pastor as well. Doing this fundraiser for his building and all this kind of stuff. And I didn't go there for that. I just went there because I used to visit his church sometime. He was on Tuesday night. Um, yeah, he was on. Yeah, he had church Tuesday night. We had church, I think Wednesday night. We had Tuesday night too for a little while, but this is back. We were on Wednesday nights. So I went to his church. It's kind of he told me, hey, you know what? We're gonna have a few guys over here this week, and love to, if you can stop by. So I went by his church that night, and the guest speaker's preaching, and one of his mentees, and and it's offering time, and I hear, give your unemployment check. I just got it. I just got it that day, and I was like, okay, yeah, and told the pastor, hey, you know what? I pledge $1,000. I'll be back here on Sunday with that $1,000, and I did. I went home and cashed that check and put that $1,000 in the envelope, kept the $8, ran back to his church on Sunday and made that pledge. Well, 3 weeks after that, 3 or 4 weeks after that, 3 weeks after that, my truck got repossessed.
Ooh, who could have seen that coming?
Now, logic would have said you should have paid your car payment, right? Because I was already a
Yeah.
month behind, and at least one payment would have kept me
Yep.
ahead. So, it kept me running at that 1 month cycle that I was already at. But my truck got repossessed, and it didn't click to me till years later. Like, what the
Dude,
fuck?
you know
Like, what the fuck?
what's so wild to me about this story too is I don't know if you know this, but you're talking about the same time when Creflo Dollar actually renounced the prosperity message
Mhm.
because he had been asking his congregation to believe for like a $35 million private jet.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
then they came under scrutiny under like Congress had to
Right.
go
Yeah.
before Congress and
Hmm.
testify. Well, then
Yeah.
after that, he still was doubled down and was like, I'm asking,
Right.
believing God for a $35 million jet. And then it came out that Evander Holyfield had given like $20 million to that church,
Right.
and
Right.
but he hadn't paid child support. He was
Right.
getting
Right. Yep.
vehicles repossessed, getting cars
Hmm.
repossessed, and he was out there. And Creflo was like, "Dude, my bad. Prosperity
Yeah.
message is wrong." But that
Yeah.
was around the same time that you were going through all this. Whenever
Yeah.
he was renouncing that,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
And so it
wild.
was 2016, after 8 years of this consistent, hardcore, faith only, word only, trust God, grace, God's unconditional love. God can't fail. God won't fail. He loves us too much. just have to
Right.
believe, stick with it kind of thing. 8 years.
Toxic positivity.
Yeah, exactly. I woke up one day and said, something's wrong.
Yeah.
And what I landed on was either God is incredibly slow at helping his people, or I'm doing something wrong. Now, I wasn't ready at that point to blame God yet. I still wasn't there to blame God.
Well, so you had to be thinking, I've done something wrong.
I've done something wrong. But this time, instead of beating myself
up, it's not in God's timing.
Right. I'd gone through that. I'd gone through that whole, because this is 8 years, right? Every year I wake up with like, okay, this
7
is the year.
years, a Jubilee guy.
Like,
if the Israelites were worth deserving of that, definitely a believer in Jesus Christ.
So I had, it's funny because I had waited, not intentionally, but when that 7th year hit, I thought, okay, right? That 7-year Jubilee, the Joseph story, the 7 years of lack and the 7 years of abundance with Pharaoh.
Even Job didn't go past that.
Right, exactly. So when I hit that 7th year, I thought, okay, you know what? It must be now. It must be coming now, and things of that nature. So I held on a little while longer, but at some point I was like, okay, something's really wrong here. And then I started examining. When I said I must be doing something wrong, I started examining myself, but not from a, what am I doing for God? Because I had told myself, look, I did everything I can do. Like if this God is not pleased with my level of faith now, then I don't know what else to say. Like I'm absolving myself of responsibility here because I know what I did. I know the sacrifices I've made. I know what I've put into this. I know the level of faith I had. I mean, with tears in my eyes, total confusion, times of incredible doubt, I stood firm through it all, through loss of home and loss of vehicle and loss of money and loss of everything. I stood firm. No one can convince me otherwise. And I was on that level at that point. Because something must be wrong.
I've been there. I feel you. Keep preaching.
So I said, what am I doing wrong? And I started looking at all these promises and my incredible belief in these promises. Another interesting story. Now, I was the senior pastor. My good buddy, who we were kind of coming up together, he became the assistant pastor. So we're best of friends still to this day, even though I'm where I'm at and he's where he's at. But I was pastor, he was assistant pastor, so he was kind of my assistant. But we're more brothers. I looked at ministry as we're doing it together as a team. I never. He's only a few months older than I am. So we've always been brothers more so than pastor, assistant pastor kind of thing.
Right.
We kind of really, because I'm a team person. I'm a person that believes in team and let's do this together and we're a body and that whole kind of thing. So anyway, so we both had hit financial hardship through the financial crisis that hit in 2008. Although we were in the same church and he was under the same preaching and teaching that I was doing, and we were talking seed time and harvest and finances and faith and the word of faith and all that, he went and filed bankruptcy, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And he called me and said, yo, bro, I'm gonna go ahead and file that bankruptcy. And I was like, I wanted to say, bro, trust God. You don't have to do that. That's the world's way. Don't go. No, trust God. You got to do it God's way. I didn't because, although we're really close, I'm not intrusive with my beliefs. So
sure.
But in the back of my mind,
he was making a bad decision.
Right. You're making a bad decision. What kind of example are you setting here? Why won't you trust God like I am? Right. So anyway, so he went and filed his bankruptcy. 2 years later, his bankruptcy was discharged. 4 years later, he was buying a new house. Right. Now, keep that in mind. I was listening to Kenneth Copeland one day, this is 2008, and he was preaching at one of his conferences from Jeremiah 17. And those first 5 verses of Jeremiah 17 is about the blessed man and how this blessed man trusts God and his ways. And the cursed man is the man who does it the world's way. Right. So I got completely sucked up into that whole mentality, right? Like I'm gonna do it God's way, the kingdom way. I'm not gonna do it the world's way. So when he told me about bankruptcy, I'm thinking this is the world's way. Like I'm not gonna do that, right? Well, he did his bankruptcy. 2 years later, he was buying a new house.
Right.
In that 4-year process after his bankruptcy, on that 8th year, so we're 2016 now, the 8th year for me, I had received another letter of judgment in the mail. Another old creditor decided to put another
Yeah.
judgment on me. And I remember
Yeah.
looking at the letter thinking, something's not right. He
Yeah.
instantly came to mind. He did bankruptcy. He got all his debt absolved. He went and bought another house. He's doing perfectly fine. And here I am trusting God with everything. And I'm still being plagued down with this. And that's when it clicked. That's when it clicked. I was the fool. I was the fool. Because now this is data, right? This is real data. This is what's happening to the person trusting God, what's happening to the person that does it the smart way, right?
Right.
He was fine. He had moved on. Nobody was calling him. No judgments were coming to his house. He had already bought a new house. His bankruptcy had been discharged. He was perfectly fine. He was calling me all the time, talking about new credit cards he was getting all the time and what his new credit limits were. And I'm still over here every day getting all these calls and judgments and all this other kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I saw it for what it was. Yeah. And then that's what broke it for me. That and some other things, but that was like the major aha moment for me.
Sure.
And then little by 2018, 19, I was really kind of had absolved myself of the pastorship and really was looking at these things a lot more critically. And I became a little bit more outspoken. I still believed in God. I still believed in Jesus, but most of all of the doctrine beliefs I was really talking against from a logical perspective. And then eventually, the whole God
you were
and Jesus thing.
This was a catalyst for you starting to break down other areas that had bothered you that you never really revisited.
Exactly.
You never really critically thought about them, but then you started to go, oh, this shit never made sense.
Right.
Ever.
Exactly.
Like,
And that
I was twisting myself into a mental pretzel to try to make this shit work because it was a coping tool. Made me feel better.
Exactly.
Exactly. I understand. Okay.
And I couldn't that
was
be
kind
wrong.
of your way out.
Yeah, I couldn't be wrong.
What did you follow any specific did you read any authors or did you watch any tutorials or was this just a self-reflection on your own doctrines and what you'd been taught and what the Bible said and just seeing the contradictions and it was just on your own kind of journey?
Yeah, it was I like to tell people because people ask me all the time, what happened?
Yeah.
And my smallest, quickest, shortest answer is I just started thinking.
Right? Yeah. No, I agree.
The thinker that I had always been, I allowed that person to be reborn. And I started thinking, right? And I took long contemplative journeys into the whole experience, right?
Absolutely. I tend to tell people it wasn't any one thing or any one moment.
Right.
I do remember the moment that I realized I was an atheist, that I no longer believed in God. I remember that moment. But that it was a moment of realization that the journey that I had been on, I had come to a conclusion. Yeah. But there wasn't any moment that happened. It was just a constant journey. I was constantly seeking, looking, trying to investigate, trying to interrogate my own beliefs, argue against myself, see how much evidence I had to believe certain things.
Right.
Start to try to find the truth about the nature of reality. That I wanted to know the nature of reality all together. Yeah. And I went down a whole rabbit hole in physics, cosmology, quantum physics, philosophy. Descartes, I started reading everything I could get my hands on. And then I found the Four Horsemen, Christopher Hitchens, Daniel Dennett, Richard Dawkins, but it was never a moment or a single person or a single debate or there was never a single moment where all of a sudden I was like, oh, fuck this isn't real. I never had a realization moment of that. I had a realization moment that all of it combined had convinced me that I no longer believed. And so I just realized it. So did you have a moment like that? Or did you?
Yeah, just a moment of realization. A lot of aha moments, like you mentioned, along the way, right?
Yeah.
So doing this contemplative review, I was searching for something real, something tangible, right?
Right.
So I looked at all of the times I've been in church, from a child up until now, up until that point, and I started looking for something tangible. Now,
Mhm.
what I found was a bunch of emotions, a bunch of laying
Mhm.
on the floor and rolling around and dancing and
Yeah.
shouting and how about my
Mhm.
shandos and all that kind of stuff.
Social
I,
compliance, social
right. I
behavior.
found a lot of that, but I couldn't remember any moment where someone touched me and I fell out in the spirit, so to speak, and I got up
Nope.
and something tangible had happened.
Nope.
I
Nothing ever
searched
changed.
through all of the countless of messages that I'd heard or preached, and I couldn't find anything tangible where I can point to, oh, but if I didn't hear this one right here, oh, my finances would not have changed, my health
Yeah.
would not have changed. I couldn't
Yeah.
find anything tangible. Through
Yeah.
all of the worship moments, good God, you're so great. I love you so much. I couldn't find anything tangible that I was able to come out of that moment and say, if I didn't do that worship right there, my life would not be this, that, and the third. Through
Mm.
all of the
Mm.
hours and countless of
Sure.
hours of prayer, I couldn't find one moment where if I didn't pray this night for 2 hours,
Right.
if I didn't do this one right here, oh boy, I
Right.
couldn't find anything. And I was
Do you,
honestly
but
searching.
in hindsight, do you think the fact that you did dedicate all those hours, that you genuinely did seek and search, do you think that that brings more validity to the position that you have now?
Oh
That,
yeah,
like, that wasn't wasted time in the fact that now you can point to it and say, I know I saw it. I
right,
know I was a seeker. I know that I was a
right,
believer. You can't
right.
convince me otherwise, because
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
you can't, like, it almost disproves to me the Bible where the fool has said in his heart there is no God,
Right,
or the Apostle Paul says, that every single person believes in God. The expanses of the glory of creation demonstrate his awe to everything.
right,
We all believe, that
hmm right,
solipsistic, presuppositionalist argument that everyone believes in a God.
right.
Um, to me, that is so condescending for someone
It
like
is
you or me, who spent the majority of our life fully in it
right. We
and
were fully
believing it and
immersed.
seeking it
Right,
deeper than most people would ever
right.
dream. And so it's
Exactly.
just insulting to
Yeah.
say to us that we didn't really believe or we didn't really seek. So do you
I've
think in that
always
way it kind of brings validity to your journey? Like, that time
absolutely.
was not wasted in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. In that sense, yes, it wasn't wasted. And yes, it brings validity because we know what we did, right?
Yes.
And the
Yes.
the 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 social media stranger will read a post of ours and come along and say, "Well, you were never really a Christian anyway."
Yeah, it
To
is
which,
obvious because the Bible
right,
says
right.
you couldn't
So
have been
to,
a
to
Christian.
to them, I quietly say, "Shut the fuck up." Just shut the fuck up. Just quietly to myself when I read it, just shut the fuck up. Like, who the
Sure,
fuck are you?
sure.
You've got no
I
fucking
think I
clue.
say it loudly, but
Yeah,
yeah,
so you've got no fucking clue. You think from one post of me saying how the story of the
that
ark is
Jack
stupid,
Dick.
that a god that would create that
Yeah.
scenario was stupid.
You're gonna
You
take
think
one
that
little
means
snippet of one thing I
yeah?
said and then
So
try
yeah,
to
you
diminish
don't
my
have no
entire
clue
experience.
of the
You got
nights I
no
was
fucking clue.
laying on my face, crying my eyes out.
Oh my god!
All
The
night
first
prayer
time
services. You got no
I
fucking
I
clue.
heard
Shut up.
I heard John Bevere my first year of Bible school
Hmm.
about how I wasn't good enough to get
Right.
in, that none of us were good enough to get into heaven, and
Yeah.
that it was only by grace, but only through
Hmm.
your demonstration of faith that in that
Right.
grace. So basically,
Hmm.
your works are
Right.
the only thing that demonstrates your faith to God, that you are
Right.
deserving of the grace to get into heaven. And
Right.
I was sick for 2, 3 days. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, just sick to my stomach, just like, I'm not going to get into heaven. I'm
Right.
never going to be good
Yeah.
enough. And I had the
Yeah.
grace message, and I was at
Hmm.
Rhema, Word of Faith,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
all this. And I'm just like crying myself to sleep,
Yeah.
afraid that I'm not going to be good enough. Dude, if,
Yeah.
if I wasn't honest and I wasn't sincere, then I don't think anybody was. That's how I feel about
Exactly. Exactly.
it.
I had a very similar experience. I was in church one night, another buddy of mine's church. And he was preaching, and this is when I was getting into the kingdom message. So the kingdom,
Oh,
find out
okay.
the
Yeah, yeah,
kingdom
yeah.
way, God's way,
Yeah,
the
the kingdom
kingdom way. If you
ways.
do
Yeah,
it the
yeah, yeah.
kingdom way, you'll
Man, you were a
succeed because
Copeland. Yeah, you listen
yeah,
to a lot of Copeland.
yeah. I mean, he became my superstar in that word of
Wow.
faith life. I was, you know,
Did you ever go listen to him preach live?
oh yeah, I went to a few of his conferences,
Yeah,
Dallas,
yeah,
I think
I
Fort
did that
Worth.
too. Nice.
But what I would do is I would go to my room every day,
Hmm.
and he had all of his those he had a DC conference and a Fort Worth
Hmm.
conference and a few other conferences around the country throughout the course of the year. And
Right.
he would have all of the full services online, the
Hmm.
3 hours long, 2.5 hours long from start to finish. And I
Right.
would go every day and put one on and lay across my bed and listen to him
Yeah.
preach, or whoever the
Yeah.
guest preacher was, whether it was Jesse
Right.
Duplantis or Creflo Dollar or
Man,
Keith
I loved them all,
Moore.
dude.
Yeah, because he had his,
The
Bill
rock
Bill
star.
Winston. He had
Yeah,
he had his
Jerry
guy,
something.
Jerry
Yeah.
Savelle.
Jerry Savelle, that's
Um,
it. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Jerry Savelle. Leroy Thompson. He had there a few times and things like
Oh
that.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
would,
TD
I'd listen
Jakes
to.
was even got in there. TD Jakes.
Yeah. So I
TD
listened
Jakes
to
had some of
those.
those Southern Baptist doctrines in his teaching, though. A lot of those
Oh yeah,
Word of
sure.
Faith people did not like that.
Yeah. So I had a lot of that stuff that I would just listen to every day. So that was my deeper indoctrination, because
Yeah.
I mean, anything in life, right? If we decide that we really believe it, like you talked about your journey, how when you started looking for
Oh
the
yeah.
answers outside of that and you dove into quantum physics and this, that, and the other, you just
Sure.
consumed all of the information you
Oh
can
yeah.
find. So,
Yeah, yeah.
we set ourselves to, okay, I'm going to pursue this. Some of us go in it with everything we have. And that's how I
Yeah.
was. I was like, okay, word of faith. Okay, grace. Okay, great. I need to consume it. I need to learn it. I need to know it. I got to immerse myself in this whole thing. So that's what I did. And I used to, if I was scanning through TBN or the Christian networks at the time, if I saw someone I didn't know and they said the word faith, I was gonna
Oh,
listen, boy.
that's
I was
me.
tuned in. Like that's all I needed.
Yeah.
You faith, let
Yeah.
me see, maybe, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I did that contemplative review of the journey, my whole life journey, and not only mine, but I've always been an observer. So I
Mm.
looked, I scoped out my mom's life. I scoped out my predecessors' lives, people that I had grown up in church with, and I'd watched their lives and I seen their struggle. And I saw how now at the later part of their life, it seemed like this God had abandoned them. They were in an old folks'
Mhm.
home and full of dementia and full of sickness. And I'm thinking, what a tragic way for these people's lives and they were so faithful and dedicated to God all
Right.
their lives. I mean, I don't get it, kind of a
Right.
thing. And another thing too, I didn't realize this till years later, James. I was like, Kyle, what the fuck, man? Like, you, the observer, like, how did you let this slip by? You were believing in seed time and harvest and prosperity, and you had never seen it work one time. All the people around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Forget the
It
people
doesn't
on
work.
TV talking about it. You had never seen it
Yeah.
work for all of the people in
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah. It doesn't work.
And you're the
It doesn't work.
observer, Kyle. You learn from
But
others. What are you doing?
but Kyle, it's not that the tithing didn't work. There was some other area of their life
Of
where
course.
they were not
They were still in sin.
really, they were still in sin.
They were
They
still
weren't
in
fully
sin. They didn't really
believing,
believing. Exactly.
you know.
Back to your story of
And the
John
devil
Badere.
stole their seed.
Yeah,
Sometimes the devil comes
yeah.
in. We
They
control what
put
the
in the
devil
wrong
do.
ground. Yeah, all that kind of
Not
stuff.
today, Satan.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
how do you know?
You know,
How do
yeah,
you know if it's Satan? You don't even
yeah.
know.
You know,
So,
yeah.
so now what do you feel like your mission is now? What, like, you've come out of that, like, what's Kyle doing today? Kyle 2.0, Kyle today. What's you come out of that, you no longer are preaching that. What message are you sending out now?
Kyle the human has
Okay.
always deeply cared about helping people.
Okay.
That has been, knowing that I'm a millionaire. The reason why I felt that way, James,
Yeah.
was not for the big house and the big car.
Right.
It was so that I can help people. You
Sure.
know, growing up impoverished, I just want to help people financially. So at the heart core of Kyle he's always just wanted to help people. Back to the story of my mother, seeing how hard it was and trying to find every single thing I can do to make it easier for her. Right. So that's my heart. I just want to help people.
Yeah.
I thought when I was in faith and in Christian world that this was the pathway. I'm going to help a lot of people through the message of Christ and the message of the cross and helping people that way. And I always had aspirations to become very wealthy so I can help people. I always used to say to God, I want to be a Christian philanthropist for you. I just want to be a philanthropist for you. God bless me so I can be a philanthropist for you. Kind of a thing. At my core heart, I want to be a philanthropist, but, just leave the God part out of it, kind of thing.
Sure.
So anyway, I just want to help people. I deeply want to help people. I deeply care about humanity. I deeply believe in us as humans. I believe in our goodness. I believe in our value. I believe in our worth. I believe in our ability to love and do good and be good. And I understand we have challenges and issues, we're all fighting through a shitload of bad programming and misinformation. And
we're about to get 8
that's okay.
chimes. My bad. It's a
No
grandfather
problem.
clock. I'm
No
listening to
problem.
you though. Everybody comments on the grandfather clock when it goes off. I
That's so cool
apologize.
though. Yeah, I haven't heard one of those in years. Goodness, awesome.
It's the one valuable thing that made it from Tulsa to Oregon. So.
There you go. Good.
No, please continue though. What you were saying was beautiful. So you have taken a humanitarian approach. You still have the same overall mission in life to be a philanthropist, to try to help humanity in whichever ways you can. What's your focus right now primarily?
Focus now is
your day-to-day mission?
Self-love, self-worth, self-appreciation, self-value,
cool. And that's your message to others too. That's your public message.
Right. Trying to do all I can do to help people believe in themselves.
Have you written any books? Do we point anybody toward TikTok, like daily encouragement? What would you suggest? How would you like to help people most who will be seeing this, who might have questions about their own deconstruction, may want to ask you about it, may want to ask you about what they can do to help with your same mission to just benefit humanitarian efforts, be a philanthropist? Like, do you have a website? How can people get a hold of you, and what can we see?
Yeah, I don't have much now outside of the few I mentioned earlier. For my TikTok, I do a little small bit of inspirational stuff on there. But what I dedicated TikTok to was, I don't want people to feel like they're alone in this deconstruction journey, right?
Okay.
Yeah. I was at the pinnacle, so to speak. I'm the pastor. I was the pastor. Sure. So I don't know if you get any more higher than that level of, position. I know bishops and apostles and stuff like that.
Like Reverend Jesse Jackson. If you have a higher public profile, maybe.
Right.
That's
but as far as, the echelon of ecclesiastical
your entire social
faith,
network and your friend network, your social network, your finances, everything was connected to this position and this belief system.
Right. So if I was able to find my way out, I want people to feel like they're not alone, right? And I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm most certainly not here to teach anyone anything in that regard. I'm not teaching anyone anything. I'm not telling anyone to adopt my views. What I am, though, is offering thought-provocative content that perhaps will inspire thought if people are thinking in this way, right? So it's only for people who are already thinking or who have thought and, maybe find common.
You're not trying to deconvert. You're just offering
for the happy Christian that's happy going to their church every week, lifting their little holy hands and running around their buildings and doing whatever they do. To you, I have no message for you. I'm not coming to your church, knocking on your door, picketing outside, calling you stupid or crazy. That's not who I am. For the people
but please don't be a bigot or a fascist while you're also following Jesus.
Yeah, I will, maybe some people call it passively, aggressively make a comment towards that way, hey, by the way, if you say you love Jesus, don't be an asshole. They say something like that along the way. But just hopeful that maybe something will click in their minds and say, you know what, I'm not doing a very good Jesus impersonation here. Let me try to do better. And that's, again, my goal to help people be better humans towards other people and themselves, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole goal behind that. Again, if you can, I say it like this, James. if people want to believe in a God, you can. No one's going to stop you. No one should be trying to stop you. What I'm
Sure.
saying is all this other stuff that goes with it is completely unnecessary. That's all
Mm,
I'm saying, you know, because the problem with Christianity, which has many problems, but one of the main problems with Christianity is it's such a lie, right? Because it pushes the idea that you just have to believe. We're just trying to get you to believe in Jesus. Okay, I do. Oh, wait, but there's more. And then they
yeah,
back the
there's
truck
always
up on you,
more. Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
They
yeah,
they back the whole
yeah,
fucking truck up on you with all
yeah,
this other shit.
yeah. It's like
And
the
it
timeshares. You
right,
know,
exactly. It
we're going to give you a
violates the
free
whole
meal, but
thing
we're
of
going to
saying
take
that I
five
just
and a
had to
half hours.
believe. Right. I mean, if John 3:16 is
Yeah,
true, then it should stop at John 3:16. Whoever
yeah,
believes shall not perish.
yeah,
That's where it should stop.
yeah,
But it doesn't, not by far, you know.
yeah.
So that's my bigger problem with Christianity and religion itself is that we I want to help people see that if you want to believe in a God, you can. But all this other stuff that goes along with it is toxic to your humanity, it's toxic to your existence, it's demoralizing to your human experience. It doesn't make you better. I've never seen a
Mhm.
case where Christianity makes people better. People become better because they want to be better. They may use the cloak and shield of Christianity or the
Mhm.
placebo of
Mhm.
Christianity, but that's
I
not
like
what
that you
makes
said
people
cloak
better.
and shield instead of cloak and dagger. You
Yeah.
extended a lot of grace.
Yeah, yeah. Our dagger
Yeah.
almost came out, but I changed it at the last second.
Yeah,
Um,
I love
so
that.
so that's
That's
the thing with me. I just want to help people find
yeah.
the belief within themselves because that's ultimately what really broke me out of that is realizing that I'm my own God, I'm my own savior, I'm my own
Okay.
Lord, I'm my own
Okay.
everything. And if
Mhm.
anything is ever going to come out of this
Now,
journey, it's going to be because I'm going to bring it out of myself.
when you say I'm my own God, you don't mean that you believe that you like you're saying that you're the one that's responsible and in control of your life.
Right,
And
right,
that's what you're limiting that version of. If you want to call that a God, then yeah,
right,
I'm my own God.
right,
Okay.
right.
Yeah, I think
Now,
I would be happy if somebody said that version of God, like you've made yourself God in a way. Yeah, but I'm a determinist. I don't believe in free will. So
right.
I don't actually think I've made myself God either. Like I'm also a consequence of the universe. I'm okay with that. Like so there's a
Yeah,
lot of ways that I don't think I'm my own God. I don't think I'm in control of everything.
right, right,
But what I am in control of and responsible for, like you said, my actions, my behavior.
right,
But
right,
that's it. Like what I
right,
get in life, it's up to me.
right. Ultimately, right? Because I look at it in a very simplistic way. I got up today. I decided, what I'm going to do with my day in every
Right.
single aspect, right? So no one rings the doorbell or calls my phone and says, "Hey, you have to do this. Hey, you have to do this. Hey, you have to do this." I make a choice out of
Right.
everything, right? What I
Sure.
wear, what I eat, this conversation, all of it's my choice, all of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
How good I am, how bad I am, whatever the reasons are, the subconscious reasons are, the unconscious reasons are, the psychological reasons are, whatever the reasons are that dictate how I am is still at the end of the day, it's still all my choice, right? I've
Yeah.
chosen when to be nice to people. I've chosen when to be not nice to people. I've chosen when to be indifferent with people. I've chosen what to believe. I've chosen what not to believe. Even though I've been indoctrinated, I still made choices,
And
even when I
Sapolsky
felt
would
like I didn't
say,
have a choice. Right.
yeah, Sapolsky would say all of that's determined upon the options that were presented to you
Right.
and which you didn't have control over. And
Right.
all of the, all of the times that you made certain decisions could have been based upon you not having a cheeseburger for lunch and
Right.
or having a
Hmm.
salad instead. And so rather than
Right.
being irritated and agitated, and so there's all these different things that go into why
Hmm.
you chose what you chose,
Right.
but it was
Right.
still determined by a lot of other factors that you
Right.
didn't choose necessarily,
Right.
or like
Hmm.
so it's one of those things. It's such a that's why free will sounds so silly in
Right.
hindsight. It's just what are you talking about here?
Right.
Like,
Right.
you didn't even get, what if you had been born 2,000 years ago into being a slave, not being allowed to read, write, anything?
Right.
what would you believe then? You had no control over when you were born, even. It's just
Right.
like these
Right.
things just to me like, yeah, I've got free will. Oh, do you? I just like
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
makes it sound silly to me. But so all right, well, I love your mission. I love what you're doing. So I want to point people, if you'll send me a private PM of which channels to
Okay.
include as across the bottom. I do offer all my guests one of my books if they want one. I've written 3 books.
Awesome.
Any of the 3 that you want, I'll send them to you after this. And I will also have a link to those that's included as an advertisement. That'll be put in here and there throughout. But we just want to make sure that people subscribe and share it with others who they think might benefit from listening to your story and your journey. If there's one takeaway other than the fact that you obviously said that your main thing is that you love on people, you want to pursue a philanthropist's lifestyle, you want to help more and more people grow and connect with that self-love that you yourself have embraced. So other than that, what other takeaway would you say leave everyone with?
I always like to end these are my final words is I want people to go to my page and donate a seed of $33.35 to my ministry. And
I'm loving it already. I don't know what you're doing, but I'm loving it. I think you're messing with me.
Yeah, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Here's the thing.
Come on,
I mean,
sow that
look,
seed. Sow that seed.
We all have to make money too. So if in any way we have contributed, if there's Patreon pages out there, if there's some way that people can contribute, then I say, yeah, absolutely. If you help them, they should contribute.
Absolutely.
Which is why I advertise my books. I want you to get something back, but yeah, if you think
in a
I'm
real helpful way, yes. And the beautiful thing about that is, we're not suggesting that a God is going to bless you in return.
No.
That's the beautiful thing about it.
You'll contribute to us being able to continue providing the same type of
by
content
all means,
to help
if
others.
So
yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah,
what I like to
you're not going to get a spiritual blessing for donating to me here.
Yeah, but what I like to kind of lead people with again is to come to a place that you can be comfortable in your journey, right? And no matter where that is for you, it's your journey, it's your path, it's your journey. And maybe some of the things I said today or you've heard today on the podcast between James and I, maybe some of the things resonate with you, maybe some of the things terrify you. No matter what it is, find that inner peace within you and walk that journey out. And you walk it out as long as it brings you peace. And if you come to a point where I did and James did and many others have, and you're wrestling with some things, you're wrestling with them for a reason because you've lost the piece of it. And when that happens, what I decided to do in 2009, when I was having those wrestling moments, I decided to follow the path that was going to bring me back to peace. And it took me somewhere I didn't know I was going to end up. But I am so incredibly happy today. I've never been happy. I've never been at more peace. I've never been more sure of myself and sure of life and sure of my purpose than I am now. So I just encourage you, follow your path to peace, whatever that is.
Amen. I love that. No, I honestly, I agree, man. I went down a wild path myself. It wasn't what I expected, but it was in pursuit of truth. And I guess that in a way that was my pursuit of peace, that, I really believe that if I were to find more truth in my pursuits in education, rather than doubling down on my beliefs and continuing to bend my mind into a pretzel in order to accept the different, outlandish claims. What if I just started looking at what we do know about the nature of reality and the universe? And what if I got excited and curious about that? And then what if that led me back to, a God or whatever? Great. But this other stuff is not getting me there. I can learn a lot about magnets and electricity and chemistry in a lab, and I can do all sorts of cool shit. But I use this book and nothing happens.
Nothing happens. Exactly.
Or I get lucky. It's 50-50. I flip a coin, I get the same. But if I do this experiment, every time I get the right results. So it was I kind of just changed the way I approach life. And like an observer, it was like,
Hmm.
what works, what isn't working.
Right. Right.
So
Exactly.
Christianity isn't working, not for
Isn't
nobody.
working. Nobody.
Man, I really appreciate you being here, Kyle. Is there anything
Thanks
I
for
can do to
having me.
help you in any other way?
No, I appreciate the time and the opportunity and your gracefulness in the call in this video in our podcast here, whatever the interview, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
I
It's
really
going on
enjoy.
YouTube, and I'll share the link with
Okay,
you. So
awesome.
I'll have it up
I,
before
I
the end of the day. I'm sure.
I
I'm
enjoy
gonna take the
the
rest of the day to just kind of chill and hang out and be
awesome.
casual. But yeah,
Good, good.
I'll edit it up. So
Do
all right,
that.
brother. Well, I appreciate you talking to me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.
You too, James. Appreciate you.
All right, man. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, later.
All right, bye bye.